What's going on, guys and gals? It's 8-Bit Ray from the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and you are listening to the Geek World All-Star Podcast Network.
Hello. There you are.
Here I am.
All I'm getting is low gruntle sounds out of John.
Put that thing away, man.
What thing are you talking about?
It's a family show.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese, Mickey? Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And I'm silently protesting.
I'm verbally protesting. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What are we talking about? I don't even know. I just wanted to jump on.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I had to do homework for this show, and it was, on the one hand, do the homework and, make Dave happy, or finish the final episode of Stargirl. I'm very, very upset that I have not seen that last episode yet.
Oh my goodness. And this isn't just me. This is JD, and this is going to be what we're going to be doing going forward a little bit. So, get used to doing homework, John.
I had to defer happiness for you, damn it.
You like comic books, so I don't know why you're complaining. All right. So so we'll start with you, John. How was your week besides having to read a classic comic?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. I spent Sunday in Jersey with the girlfriend, and everything else is fine. Nothing to complain about. Still ensconced in my house, in my hermit sanctuary here, and nobody I know has the virus. That's always good news.
So wait, you're using the term again.
Mm-hmm.
Something you care to share with the rest of the class?
Mm-mm.
No. You can't say that you have a girlfriend again and not share. I mean, come on.
I can very well do that. In fact, I just did that.
Now, is this the same girl from before, or is this a new girl?
No, new girl.
Oh, okay. Oh, then she's not going to listen to this, so you're fine.
I hope not. She's a psychologist.
Oh, I have to find out who she is to make her listen.
No.
So she can tell me what's wrong with you.
You don't want that wrong with me? You don't want that trouble. You don't want the curtain pulled on this one.
How about
so,
you?
Dave, how are you?
I'm good, but we skipped over JD.
No, I figured we'd end on a high note, so.
I'm just waiting my turn, man.
He adds the therapy tour group dynamic. Since we're going out of turn, uneventful week, except I was a guest on the So Wizard podcast this week. We just recorded it yesterday, which would be Sunday when you're hearing this. Yes, it was interesting. Really short episode. They only couple of news articles to talk about, and then they did their favorite three. We all picked our favorite three comedies because they're doing a Getting to Know You month. So it was
cool.
It was interesting because Joey hates comedies. But what was fascinating is Joey pointed out that he's been on our show So is Mark Ellis, and we've done crossovers together, but that's the first time anyone from our show was on So Wizard, so.
Yeah, put me on them next. I'll do it.
Uh-oh.
By the way, did you guys, when you were over there, did you guys talk about the Mulan thing with Disney Plus and the $30 price tag?
No, they talked about that last week, I think.
Okay.
So JD, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay.
I know.
We had a pretty nasty thunderstorm come through here earlier. 100 mile an hour winds, but everything wound up okay for us. I mean, no problems. Everything's cool.
You got that too? Because we had that was a tropical storm that came through here. I was out of power for 3 days. And I'm just saying, Dave, that doesn't count as abnormal and out of the ordinary because I live in Amish country and that happens a lot. That's why I have a generator. But so what did you get?
Oh, we had a massive line of thunderstorms stretching from northern Wisconsin all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma. That blew through here earlier today. It said 100 mile an hour wind gusts, but we got out of it okay. Lost power a couple times. We figured, maybe now that we're living in the country, we should spend some money on a generator and some LED lights. So that'll be the next purchase when we go into town. Next week launching Kickstarter for the new edition of Harvest Moon. I should show you guys the new cover. It's going to be available as one of the reward tiers. I'll go into talk more next week. Hey, So Wizard, you're looking for a guest. I know a guy who's going to be pushing a Kickstarter real hard coming up.
Yeah, who's that?
Dude.
We're threatening you guys. Sorry. So you're fixing to go into town?
It's a good. It's not that bad. It's like a half hour.
Oh, geez. Wherever
I decide to go, like either a half hour one way to go, not to Chicago, but to like the suburbs. Or if I want to go into Rockford, it's like 25 minutes. You know.
And John. So you lost power. So you could have easily read the comic while you had no power, right? Because you couldn't watch Stargirl without power.
First off, I was busy trying to get some work done offline, and then I have to set up the generator, run a couple of power cables. I hadn't counted on having a problem, so I had to go out and get gas, and then talk with the neighbors. Also with all the rain, I had to go across to the storm drain and get soaking wet while trying to keep the storm drain uncovered so it didn't all flow over into my property and flood my basement. Yeah, I had plenty of time, Dave.
Excuses. All I hear is excuses.
JD, if you're looking at a generator, you really should look into having an electrician come out and put in a switch over in your house so you can plug the generator into a single socket and then switch over like your refrigerator and a couple other things to the generator.
That's a good idea. I will look into that.
It makes a huge difference. Then you have to make sure you have a generator that can power it all. So but they're not that bad.
I'll look into that. So yeah, things are going all right.
That's good. So let's derail things that are going all right and check in with our audience and do a little social media madness.
Yeah, we don't have to do that, really.
Really. So we had talked about Kevin Smith is going to be doing a Green Hornet cartoon, and I tweeted out about it, and I used a GIF from the old Green Hornet TV show, and you have Bruce Louis Cato kicking a guy in the head in the clip, and Timothy Jones said, "The question is, what was the guy in the GIF reaching for? The Green Hornet didn't even flinch. A cartoon would be cool if done in a serious tone. I think Cato stands for kicking at temple. What's that? Obligatory. Okay. Obligatorily is actually what it says. So, so yeah. No, I don't think that's what it stands for, Tim.
Obliteratingly.
There you go.
Obliteratingly. Sorry. I wasn't reading it. I was just going by what Dave was saying, and obviously that was wrong.
I'll tell you what, that dude that got kicked in the head's got sour grapes.
Oh!
Gimmick.
Boot to the head.
H. William Ruback said, as long as they use real animation, not that stick figure squares instead of circles, preschool stuff that has been going around for far too long. And for God's sake, use some freaking shading and halftones.
Can I ask a question? What in the name of God is he talking about?
All right, so if you look at stuff like the new Thundercats cartoon, or
Ugh. You mean Thundercats 4?
Even
It's not for you. It's not for you, John.
Even the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, like the animation seems very basic today. I agree with that. Like, I don't like this new, simpler animation. I think it's what was it? What's the kid with the star on his shirt? Gems. What's the name of that show?
What, you mean Gem? Like actual Gem?
No, Steven Universe.
Oh, Steven Universe.
Yeah, I think that was like the first real popular cartoon that kind of had this more simplistic style to it.
A simplistic style, but its storyline was way more complicated than it let on in the first couple of episodes.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the animation style.
I know.
And then it led on to, again, I think TMN, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, the new Thundercats, and,
just cutting budgets left and right.
Yes. Maybe that's what it is. It's too much money. The Korean sweatshops are charging more for animation.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother the newer style of animation. Doesn't get on me.
It'll cycle through.
Yeah,
it'll cycle through because when a lot of them have like the just the shaded backgrounds with like basic outlines and even shading that's outside the lines and all that, just enough to give you a hint of what's behind them and whatever. Like we saw that in the 60s, and now it's making a comeback, and it'll cycle through again where people just want, everybody's got ultra HD TVs, and that style of animation won't cut it anymore, and they'll go back to
Teen Titans is another simple one. Anyway, go.
Yeah,
but it's awesome. My kid is going through. We have Boomerang right at the house, so my kid is going through a Scooby-Doo phase.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, Hanna-Barbera cartoons in the 60s, the late 60s through the 70s, you want to talk about some cutting back stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then we also watched some He-Man. You want to talk about Filmation in the early 80s as far as saving money.
Oh, those guys pioneered those effects.
Let's just be real about, what's simplistic animation. We all grew up with stuff that was cheaply made and nobody knew it, and they just cranked it out. Like Scooby-Doo, they made the same show 9 times, but I'm not even talking about his show. I'm talking about other Hanna-Barbera shows that just ripped off the concept. They just kept making it work.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Remember the fish.
Remember the original Spider-Man with the scrolling background?
Yeah, but Bakshi also did some crazy stuff on that. There's simple, and there's Bakshi was doing some psychedelic stuff too at the same time back in the original Spider-Man's a different kind of example, because Bakshi can get pretty crazy when he wants to, as we saw with the Lord of the Rings stuff.
True.
Oh yeah.
And then the podcast replied to this tweet, but about something else we talked about in the show. He said the Pinocchio, it does look creepy, but I'm in. Interesting fact, Roberto Benigni, who plays Geppetto, wrote, directed, and starred in a 2002 live-action Pinocchio adaptation.
That was terrible. Terrible film.
I did not see it, so I'll take your word for it.
There is a reason you didn't see it, because it was a gigantic... Because that's after Roberto Benigni really got big. Life is Beautiful, I believe, was his breakthrough performance. And he got to do the thing he wanted to do next, and that he followed up to that was Pinocchio. And it died a slow death. To the point where it's been forgotten.
Yes. So, and then, moving on, we talked about the rumor of a live-action Batman Beyond movie, and that one of the current rumors is there's 2 Jokers going to be in it. The Mind Gap podcast said...
Great title, by the way. Great title of the podcast.
DC exec. Guys, We have to figure out a formula to make people like our movies. Intern who brought the coffee. I like the movie that had the Joker in them. DC exec. Triple the Jokers.
Are you sure it's not that they just saw that many Jokers because of the amount of cocaine?
And Patrick, who's at Patrick677022418. I hope that's not your phone number that I just gave out to everyone.
Patrick Bot. That's like a bot name. Go ahead.
Yeah. Would Bruce Wayne still be Terry's biological father? That's why I included this one, because I'm kind of curious what you guys think of that. I remember, like, that was one of the reveals towards the end of the show is that I can't remember, was he a clone or actually his biological son?
No, Amanda Waller used, like, Batman DNA or Bruce Wayne DNA to help him. So, like, I don't know, they, like, slipped it into his mom or something. Like, it was really, for Justice League Unlimited, it was a really great show, but that reveal was really stupid.
So you think it's a dumb idea and they shouldn't continue it?
That's the idea. That's what I meant by really stupid.
Yes, okay. What do you think, John?
About?
The really stupid idea of making Bruce Wayne Terry McGinnis' father.
Yeah, that felt sort of shoehorned.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was kind of shoehorned. It was, Amanda Waller deciding that there always had to be a Batman, and so they injected. It was really, really retconning. I think it's probably one of the only things I didn't like about the, Justice League Unlimited. So everything else was good. I mean, it's like they shoehorned that in order to make it a perfect bookend for the beginning of the Batman animated series.
Right.
You know, it was like a beginning and ending of all of the Bruce Timm stuff.
Because it was the end of the Bruce Timm, like, television programs.
Yep.
But it was needless.
Yeah.
No,
it was like the very last episode. So yeah. I mean, you know, you could almost finish without that episode and still have a good ending.
Yes.
I choose to ignore it myself.
I concur. That's all I have to say. And then lastly, we talked, of course, about JD's White Whale, the New Mutants movie. And
time will prove me right.
Yes, a lot of time. Many years. They're going to unearth the original copy of that in, the year 4000. And that's when it will finally play.
Uncle Redbeard agrees with JD. He says, actually really pumped for this film, if it ever actually gets released. Big Magic fan, really like the casting of Anya Taylor-Joy. So.
Anna Taylor-Joy. She is great. She looks like magic, and she's really good. The Witch, for anybody looking for something that she's done in the past. She's really good. Really spooky movie.
She just did another movie that I saw. What was it? It was Emma. She did Emma. She was in Emma, and it was really, really good.
She's also going to be the Elena Porshkova, I believe the name. I forget the name. The other Black Widow in whenever this Black Widow movie comes out.
Never. Oh.
Great.
So that's it. That's all the social media madness for this week, guys.
Thank the goddess.
But if you, the listener, would like to know how to get involved in social media madness and where to find more superhero speak, here's our good friend D-Squared to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for hashtag GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thank you for that, Don. And don't forget to check out the D-Square podcast and a couple of great new comic book reviews that are up on our website from him. And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right. We got some news. I think we can start with JD's news that he brought for this week because
I think it's the big news, to be honest with you.
It probably is the big news, and why bury the lead? And I think I actually hadn't heard everything until you pointed it out, and I went and looked it up. So apparently there's a big shakeup going on over at Warner Brothers. The top execs have all left the company or been let go. Apparently they're blaming the failure of HBO Max on this.
Oh my, well,
and
yeah. It did fail hard.
And they're
it's not Quibi, but it's not doing well.
Well, Quibi was meant to die. Like there are some rumors on the internet about the contracts that people had to sign, the creators for that kind of make it sort of look like they were just gathering up a bunch of content that they could then resell later, and that Quibi was just a way to get all of those signatures and all the content. But like it was every step of the way, even people don't know anything about the business. There was no way it was ever going to, it looked like it was literally built to never make it.
So you're trying to tell me this is like a Zero Mostel plot? Like this is springtime for Hitler on the Eps?
I'm just yeah. I mean, like I said, they're rumors. These aren't our rumors. These are actual rumors. But the thing is, it's like, even with Quibi, like one of the quote unquote gimmicks was that you could watch in landscape mode, but you could turn the phone and watch it in, portrait mode. But in portrait mode, you miss everything that's going on that's in landscape mode. So what's the point? It's really stupid shit like that.
It is really stupid, and the fact that you aren't allowed to like share anything out from Quibi means none of the stuff gets like really any publicity. Like I don't know, Jeffrey Katzenberg's not that stupid. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Color me suspect.
Yeah. That's the thing. Nobody can, and all of the other people that were signed on with him. It's really, really, hinky.
Okay, so 10 points to Hufflepuff for the producers reference, but
thank you. Yes. I'm in Hufflepuff. What the hell?
Okay.
Off
of Quibi, back onto
Focus.
Vampire.
ADHD theater. Focus.
Back onto Warner Brothers, and of course they're consolidating their television division right now. So their non-scripted and scripted are to be combined under one operations at this point. So, which leads me to wonder, like, okay, there's a lot going on with Warner Brothers Television. What does this mean? And does this affect, like, the CW shows? And you had said, JD, that this might affect the DCEU, or whatever they're calling it now.
The DC Universe app, I'm pretty sure, like we've been talking about, speaking of things that were poorly rolled out.
Yeah.
It just never quite had the traction, right? It couldn't decide if it wanted to be a comics app or a film or a movie or TV app. And
they didn't put everything that they had rights to on it. Like,
no. Well, I don't know if they actually had rights to everything. Like, cause the problem with a lot of these places is they sign contracts, right? Before they have the ideas to do these things. So consequently, stuff is in different places. HBO Max, for example, having the Harry Potter movies and then losing them as soon as Peacock started. Because Peacock had the streaming rights.
Well, and it's not just that stuff. Like, they don't have all their DC comics on there.
No. Well, they always say that DC Comics is a much bigger library than Marvel ever had, so doing a Marvel Unlimited for DC is much more difficult. That being said, it never quite. That's the problem with HBO Max too, is they bring out these apps with no real plan on what to do. I actually think DC had a better launch strategy than HBO did, but none of the properties were really like people jumped on. You know, we've been talking about the streaming war for about 2 years now on the show, and I've been saying this: the world can't support all these apps, and we have finally gone past peak market. We've gone past peak market saturation. Now we're starting to see contraction of these apps. Like, everything has been a failure. Like, everyone's trying to chase the 900-pound gorilla of Netflix, and nobody can hold a candle to it. They've been
except for Disney Plus.
I was going to say,
even them, they don't have the numbers that Netflix does. They're doing the best of the new guys. They had a plan when they came out. They're far and away. Like, the original three, you got your Hulu, your Amazon Prime, and you've got Netflix. They are so far ahead of everyone else because they've been at it for longer. Disney's the best since. Like, they're the best of the new guys. But then you've got CBS, Peacock, everything else is falling behind.
And stuff that you like on CBS could be on Hulu, and stuff that you like on Hulu could be on something else, and it's
That's
all over the place.
When everything was consolidated to Hulu, it actually worked better, but then everyone got greedy, and no one can afford owning 20 different streaming apps.
Yeah.
Like, just because you have content doesn't need you need to have your own platform. Like, this is like back in the day when everybody thought they needed to have a network, and they were like, oh, I guess we really don't need to have a network. We can just sell it and make more money. So, I mean, we're going to start seeing stuff contract. It's starting now. HBO Max, tremendous failure.
And this is the acid test. Like, okay, like, not during a pandemic, if you can go see movies and stuff and all, and all that, and people are busy, you're going to see bad numbers if it's bad, but people are literally trapped in their houses. And if you can't get good numbers in this scenario, then your streaming service isn't going to make it.
That's the WWE network too. They launched in 2014 and they thought they had all this great content, and they've been seeing nothing but contraction. Like, they've all, like, every single one of these, like we joked about Quibi, Apple TV is another one. Like, people were just kind of like, I like Netflix.
Well, even the secondary players, like Rooster Teeth, Funimation, Crunchyroll, the second tier and the outliers. Like, Crunchyroll's doing really well. They were like the Netflix of anime. And Funimation owns so much IP from the last 50 years or whatever that they're kind of doing okay. And Rooster Teeth makes its own content, which is fine. But there's anime on, even Netflix has anime, and Amazon Prime has tried doing anime, and they're not doing so well with it. And Netflix is doing better than most. That's all I can say.
Netflix is still they're the 900-pound gorilla. You can't stop them.
I think number one, the real issue, because this whole, people are stuck at home, so they should be able to do well, it's people miss the point of why Netflix was doing well. The whole cutting the cord was to save money. Well, we're not going to go out and jump on a bunch of nickel and dime subscriptions now. That defeats the point of getting rid of cable. Yep. So it's like, well, I'm going to go with what offers the best variety for what I want to watch. And since Netflix wasn't tied to particular IP, they had everything as well.
Comfort food.
Yeah. And if I may interject another point, we are not going to pay a large monthly fee and then pay an extra $30 on top of that to be able to rent a movie.
Okay, we'll get.
Like, hold on. Why are we paying?
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay. Oh, whoa. But yeah, basically what this comes down to is Warner has to restaff everything. They lost money. Like, and Warner is traditionally, no matter who buys Warner, because remember when we were back in the day, they were Time Warner, now they're Warner Media after the AT&T merger. It's still Warner. They still have the same problems. And DC is going to have to fire, and the rumor going on Twitter today is DC is going to be firing a bunch of staffers. And I don't know I'm pretty sure that their streaming platform is going to close up. I don't know what it means for the comic division. I imagine they're just going to cut a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That would suck because.
Yeah, it's going to suck big time.
Yeah. I mean, at least Stargirl is going to be saved, but there was so much I mean, yeah. I mean, that platform died hard as soon as they, 2 days before they released Swamp Thing, they announced that they're canceling it. They literally shot themselves in the face with that.
Well, just they weren't ready for it. The app is it's just not what you want to spend the money on. There's better deals available.
It's funny because it's I don't know if your analogy of Netflix being the 900-pound gorilla is correct. Netflix to me feels like they're the prestige brand. They've been around the longest.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, Netflix. Okay, I'm already a subscriber, or I know that they've had quality content, so I'll sign up for them, kind of a thing. To me, the 900-pound gorilla is Disney because they're the company with the proven track record and the money to just go, you know what? We're going to buy Fox and launch a streaming platform. I think people think Disney just decided to do it one day, but I think they planned that much longer than people realize.
I agree with you. I don't think HBO and Peacock and these other places have planned nearly as well.
Right.
Now, I can't talk about Peacock because of certain reasons.
Right.
But as far as the rest go, yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I work for Comcast. So
you think Peacock is wonderful?
Yeah. No, I actually don't have it and haven't looked at it yet. But yeah, you're right. All the rest of them, and they were just all followers, right?
Right.
Hulu kind of planned it out, and they had a bunch of good agreements, and but then the dam burst. Yeah. And then the dam burst, and everybody else is like, "Oh, we have to do this now."
I mean, it was Marvel had, Disney bought Marvel, but Marvel did Iron Man, and then kind of well, let's throw this Avengers teaser at the end of the movie. And, but they were able to slowly build a universe, and then all of a sudden it was everyone had to have a universe, a cinematic universe, and who else has done it?
So are you saying that Netflix and maybe even, Disney was the Marvel of the streaming services because they slowly built up everything that they needed to get a really good service, whereas the rest of them are the DCs where they just rushed out.
Yeah, I'm just saying it feels like we live in a world of, the instant gratification. People want things right away, and business kind of,
especially the TV execs.
and I was about to say, and the TV execs, the movie execs think they need to do it now, and they don't plan the things out. And if you don't have the money, you don't have the IP, you really need a plan, and I see a lot of these streaming services coming and just disappearing very quickly.
Well, this, and you got to see if you take one step past everything's collapsing now. The next thing that we're looking at is, how much consolidation can we stand before it becomes monopolistic?
Okay, while we're on this subject, I've just gotten some news. Bleeding Cool is the source. As far as DC goes, there's been quite the bloodletting. Editor-in-chief Bob Harris is gone. Mark Doyle, nice guy, editor of the Black Label line, is gone.
Wow.
Bobby Chase, former editor, is gone. Andy Corey, another super nice guy, gone. DC story editor Brian Cunningham, gone. Hank Canal is gone. The DC collectible line Statues and Toys will be licensed to Marvel instead of doing it on their own.
God.
And there's some other names that I don't recognize quite as well. Jonah Whelan, who I believe was the guy who started CBR back in the day, who was working for them, is now also gone.
Wow.
Oh boy. Jim Skolsky, Sarah Haskell, Sandy Resnick, Eddie Choi. Wow, it's a bad day over at DC, man. Bad day.
Wow. Wow.
They're expecting a rapid reduction of titles over there.
Huh. Interesting. That's very interesting.
Well, maybe the mouse will buy them up, and we will get our Hulk versus Superman movie.
No.
I don't want to see that. You need competition. Like, competition is what's good. You don't, like I said, as being a pro wrestling fan for years, when the major competitor went out of business, it ushered in a very bad era. You know, you don't need that.
That goes for literally anything. Like when Microsoft finally beat out Netscape Navigator, we had 6 years of literally no development on browsers. We lost 6 years. It goes for anything. So yeah, I mean, this is gonna, the only thing I don't want to see is like DC getting sold to like a bunch of quote unquote investment goons that didn't cut it up.
I don't know what they're going to do. Like, what's possible is they're going to keep the IP, because the IP has incredible value. You don't get rid of Batman, especially when you're a company looking to make more money. What you could do is you could wind up seeing DC Comics shut down and those IPs farmed out to other places. Could see that. I'm not saying you're going to, but that's been rumored for 40 years that DC was going to do that, and they never have. But these are different times.
So yeah, even Bloomberg is saying they let go of at least 800 people at Warner Brothers and HBO Variety.
It's the problem with these big multinational conglomerates is they absorb so many other businesses that major mistakes have dire consequences.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, I've heard tell of that kind of thing. Yeah,
I mean, it's like DC has been part of this since they were owned by the parking lot company, you know, who got bought by Warner, who got bought by, you know, Turner, who got bought by, you know what I'm saying? Like at AOL, all the way, you know, this thing, like this Cthulhu-like monster that is Warner Media, it has a track record of some just horrible decisions over the last 40 some years. So it's just, it's unfortunate, and I feel bad for people that work at DC. Because when I was going through there, when I had my incidents with Vertigo of almost getting published there, the staffers and the editors were nothing but cool. The publisher wasn't so much, but he's already out of work. But, you know, it is what it is. Jim Lee still has a job.
For now.
Yeah, CBR just like literally an hour ago actually had some stuff on it too.
Did he
sell
his imprint to Warner Brothers?
Oh, Wildstorm, yeah. That's how he got in the door there, and now he's the publisher.
What a shame.
Yeah, it sucks. It's a bad day if you're a comic fan.
Jim Lee is no longer a publisher.
Oh, he's still no longer a publisher.
Jim Lee's still with the company, but no longer publisher. DC Collectibles is gone entirely.
Whoa.
Leading Co also confirmed Elbine's list of names while adding that Marie Javis, executive editor of Global Publishing Initiatives and Digital Strategy, is being elevated.
So she might become the new editor-in-chief or possibly the publisher. I know she's a big backer of Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder always kind of one-on-one with her. So
see,
take for that which.
Now I have to talk to a friend of mine, who fortunately hasn't done a lot with DC in the last year and a half, but he does have one of his things became a DC collectible statue. So I'm wondering if.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if how that affects him. Probably doesn't. I think it's probably.
Which probably means he's just not going to make money off the statue anymore.
No, I think it's they just he doesn't get a percentage of the sales anyway. They just pay him for the work, you know.
Oh, then it's over. Yeah, then he's
I don't know if this means anything to you, but let's see. It says the moves come as Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar looks to streamline the Warner Media business with greater emphasis on HBO Max, the company's new streaming service.
Well, they're in. They got to figure out a way to make it work at this point.
Yeah, so
they fire the people making the content.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing with these hydras. You know, you cut off all the heads and it don't matter.
I've been through this before. It's like, we want this thing to succeed, and we need to throw more money at it. So to throw more money at it right now, we're going to cut all of this other stuff that isn't as profitable as we would like it to be, so we can free up capital to throw into HBO Max. But then what?
Right, because they have to.
HBO Max fails terribly, and then Warner Brothers just goes away, you know, or gets broken up,
right?
You know, completely.
which I don't know. There's people that would argue Warner Media should be broken up.
True.
There's so much, and that's again the problem with these giant companies. Like DC Comics has its own issues. They shouldn't be subjugated to Kevin Riley's mistakes with launching HBO Max. But here we are.
Yep.
And it's a terrible time for this to happen. We're still in a global pandemic. Unemployment is still high, but people make bad decisions. It was a bad decision, and they're stuck. Warner's stuck in Hatton trying to make it work.
I'm just glad I'm a Marvel fan. So anyway,
thanks, man. Appreciate that. That's I got to change my tagline. I'm no longer the DC apologist. I'm the DC Death Watcher or whatever. I don't know. It's like DC Undertaker.
It's possible, man. It's really possible.
This is not good. Let's move on to something else real quick. Speaking of a terrible time for fans, this was picked up by Newsweek this week, and it's kind of interesting. I know it seems like it feels like a filler story because it's like it says New York Comic Con has no plans to cancel, and fans aren't happy about it. And it talks about how they haven't officially announced a cancellation, and fans online are confused, like what's going on, blah blah.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going. There's no way getting 280,000 people from all over the world in a tiny room.
In New York, no, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, even if they didn't cancel it, there's no Andrew Cuomo or the mayor of New York. Neither one of them would have let that happen.
So it's been pointed out, and this is probably what the true story is they have to wait to the last possible minute to cancel it so that they can get their insurance payment.
Mm-hmm. It's all over but the official.
Are you kidding me? What kind of agreement is that? What? I don't understand.
Because it has to.
Why would that be in the insurance thing?
Because it has to be. We were told by the city we can't have this, so the insurance company.
Right.
Where if they turn around and it's like they canceled it on their own, the insurance company go, well, you know what? Then you're not getting paid.
And they might be liable. Well, they might be liable by Javits too for having to pay rent on the facility.
Probably are.
They need. Yeah, they need to have, you need to evaluate these things. These things need to be evaluated as the moment approaches.
So they're playing chicken with the...
No, they're not playing chicken. They're just...
No. Yeah, I would say they're playing chicken with, Andrew Cuomo.
No, I guarantee... I guarantee Andrew Cuomo's already saying they're not going to have it. But there has to be... It has to be an official thing, probably 30 days out or something from the actual date.
Right, that was like when San Diego got canceled. They didn't cancel. They knew in March it wasn't going to happen, but they weren't able to cancel it till June.
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
Exactly. And
believe me, if Repop thought they could sell it, we'd be getting spammed right now.
But again, I keep pointing out to people, no guest announcements. The tickets have never gone on sale. They never did the fan verification, and no pro or press badges or anything were ever approved or sent out. Yeah. So
if Repop thought there was a slight chance there might be a show, they'd be trying to push for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they've known for a while there's not going to be a show. They just can't officially say anything yet. So yeah, I'm kind of confused that the people at Newsweek, couldn't see that.
Got to write about something.
So that's like shave the whales. You got to shave something.
You can shave a whale.
Yes, you can.
Can milk a cat.
Oh my God! Yes, 5 points for a Father of the Bride. No, not Father of the Bride. What's the name of that movie? Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents.
All right. So here's a couple more quick hits for us. It was officially announced that the John Wick. We're not only getting John Wick 4, we're getting John Wick 5, and they're being shot back to back.
Which only means that John Wick 4 will end with John Wick going back to the Old West.
Alternately, I would have said, okay, John Wick 5, he just murders everybody on the planet, because, what's left?
And that's probably going to happen. That being said, I am so excited. These movies are great.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently the director said he had too many story ideas to fit into one movie. So, he got
I like the idea that this extended universe keeps getting, well, extended.
So,
you know?
It's the most successful original franchise of this decade, of the previous decade.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. Keep doing it until people stop going. Give Keanu all the love and all the work.
The two things I pointed out, though, when we did talk about this on So Wizard, is, one, I don't blame them filming it back to back. Keanu's in his 50s now. Who knows how much longer he can keep this up? And two, I really hope this isn't a Matrix thing where they expand on the mythology too much that it ruins it.
Yeah.
Like, don't explain too much. Like, I like the idea that they show you little things here and there, and it's just like, it makes no sense, but it's still cool, you know?
Well, we have the high table now, and if they just leave that as a nebulous, like, organization, you know, top thing, that would actually kind of work, like you're saying, you know? Don't go into explaining literally everything, like all the people in the high table, and like give us their backstories and all that. Just leave them as like these people that are just
Don't tell us John Wick was actually, this is the fourth incarnation of John Wick, and he's a bug in the Matrix.
This is his fourth regeneration.
Oh my god. Yeah. How to ruin a cool concept.
No, it's going to be great. All three of those were great. This one's going to be great. It's all going to be great. They haven't let us wrong yet. It wasn't. Matrix only got one good movie, right? 2 and 3 sucked. We're going on to 5. They're great.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Bring the dogs back though. Good puppies. Ripping people's throats out. Oh, he's such a good puppy.
That means you have to bring Halle Berry back, right? They were her dogs.
Yeah. Hey, I don't
Bring her
mind
back.
that. Yeah, she did pretty good in that.
Okay.
She was good.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying to bring the dogs back. They're her dogs, so.
I know, but the dogs were more important.
All right, so we're all on board. Yes, we're excited. More John Wick, the better. Candyman director Nia DaCosta. By the way, Candyman was supposed to be out like this week in theaters, I believe. And she has been tapped to direct Captain Marvel 2 from the company that I stopped falling apart.
Sure now.
Other than the Candyman remake, I have no idea of anything she's done. She's kind of like a newer director. She's done some indie stuff. So my question is, what do you guys think of this? And are you excited for Captain Marvel 2? And what do you kind of want to see in a Captain Marvel 2?
I want to see personality. Like the personality she had in Endgame. I'd like to see that personality come back, you know?
Well, they filmed it. They filmed Endgame before her movie?
Right. I know. And it's just a matter of direction, right? So I want to see her, like, you know, be who she is. She should be almost kind of like, she should almost have the attitude of like All-Star Superman, right? Cause she's like nearly godlike in that universe. Like even Thor and Hulk would have trouble fighting her. They may not even win. So, I mean, she was doing pretty good all alone against Thanos by himself. So, I don't know. Yeah, but they can expand on her mythology and just have a good old fist fight with gods. I don't know, like Ego the Living Planet. I don't know. What do you throw at her? Seriously, what do you throw at her? Right? Like it's gonna be a Superman problem. Like we did
Ego the Living Planet.
Yeah, I know. Like regenerate him and have her take him out again.
There's plenty of like super like with cosmic villains in the Marvel universe. There's lots of places they could travel. They could do something with the Negative Zone. They could do a lot. There's a lot of Captain Marvel-ish stuff they can do. I haven't read a lot of the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel books. I know people love them, so imagine if you can adapt some of those things. It'll be fine. Her trailer for the new Candyman movie looks really good. It looks like they're doing some different stuff with it, so I'm excited to see that because I love that franchise. Or actually, I love the original, I should say.
I will say, like, if they get her mixed up with Multiverse of Madness, like Captain Marvel's already lost 2 bouts in Death Battle, once against Android 18 from the Dragon Ball Z stuff, and once from Shazam. So, you could bring in some other people through Multiverse of Madness to take her on.
You could, and then we could just pretend that didn't get said.
Yes, let's pretend that didn't get said, especially the Android 18 thing.
Hey.
Well, my take on this, again, this was already said on another podcast, but it's nice to see that Marvel is sticking with the formula of young, inexperienced directors that they can control, so that we can actually
groom,
so we can actually get Feige's vision as opposed to the director's vision.
I wouldn't say inexperienced. I would say directors without a lot of power, without a lot of brand, control of their own. That's what Feige. I mean, it's like directing. Let's be real. Directing a Marvel movie is like directing an episode of a TV show.
True. Very true.
Feige's a showrunner.
Yeah,
that's it.
And as long as he keeps doing it, I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And then finally, we got a couple more, but another quick hit. John, I think you already have tried to say something about this. You seem to have a lot to say about it. It has been announced that Mulan will be released in this country on Disney Plus for $30 is the price if you would like to see the live action Mulan on Disney Plus.
See, now that would work if you are like, a family of 5. Right? But somebody like me who's paying the monthly the monthly charge for Disney Plus, I don't want to spend $30 just to rent a movie. I'll wait until it comes down. First off,
let me correct you. You're not renting it. Yes,
what,
$30 and you can watch it whenever you want after that.
That's stupid. How many people I don't have kids. I'm not going to watch it over and over again.
I have kids. I have grandkids. It makes sense to me.
See, now this might be my age, and Dave, you can check me on this, but I still feel wrong about buying something that I cannot take with me. Like, if something were to happen to Disney Plus, you would lose everything you quote unquote.
I don't disagree with that, because I've had this conversation with lots of people, especially for the fact that I know people that still buy stuff on Blu-ray and DVD because what if the streaming service goes away? You just lose those movies, and I get that.
And that's happened. That's happened because remember all those Blu-rays that you bought for the last 10 years, they came with the little ultraviolet tag, and you sign up for that service, and that service died, and they move all of your quote unquote owned content into another service, and it was a huge hassle. I only had 3 or 4 because I never bothered with it anyway. But I tried to go through the process of moving my quote licensed material from one service to another, and half of it didn't work.
You just lost it.
So right. So, and how many people are technically we're technically astute? How many stay-at-home moms or normal people are going to be able to get that done properly, or have the time to do it? It doesn't make any sense.
But John's lonely old man bitterness aside.
Yes. I agree.
I look at it this way, because we were talking about this. I've been talking this with some other people, and people complain, but it's if I was going to take, my kids and my grandkids to the movies, I would spend way more than $30.
Right. But all this is going to encourage is during a pandemic, getting a big group together in your house to show the quote unquote show the movie, or for people like me to pirate it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it probably will be showing up on unlocked Fire Sticks within 24 hours of it debuting. And the thing is, too, in other countries, movie theaters are open again. So that's the other thing they were talking about. It's just the
It's just the U.S.
U.S. or North America, because I think Canada is included in this, too. But, yeah.
Only because they're near us.
Yeah.
But so it's they're gonna, you can't blame them. They've got to make money on this movie. They have the control to just put it on there, and I don't know. What do you think, JD? Are you gonna buy it?
No. Mainly because we've bought movies on Amazon Prime before. because Amazon Prime has very few things that live on Prime, right? There's some things you want to own, and it's easier for us to, like, Teen Titans, go to the movies. Like, we own that on Amazon Prime because we watch it frequently. Mandy loves it, so we have that. It's that peace of mind. We bought Onward 4 weeks before it premiered on Disney Plus. So we were like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That was $20. Eventually, Mulan will live on Disney
Yes,
Plus.
that's
Right.
I just have to be patient.
That's the thing that is getting me. Like, you're spending the $30 for the ability to watch it now, when you do know Disney will eventually just be like, 6 months from now, it's just on there for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
like, I get it. They got to recover something of a loss, because that's a big loss of not to have the American box office. It is. Yeah. So they got to do something, and I'm okay with them doing something. I mean, to be quite honest, I probably wasn't going to see it at the theater anyway, so I don't need to give them $30 on top of the $9 or whatever it is that I already give them.
Okay.
But I'll tell you something. I would have rented it for $15. I would have paid an extra $15 just to rent it.
Not on Disney. I might have done it on Amazon, but I'm definitely not doing it on Disney Plus.
Why not?
Because my expectations are different for that platform. On Amazon Prime, I'm used to renting things. Like, we'll rent a movie for a couple bucks. But on Disney, my expectation is I have this library of films that this movie will eventually live on.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I get it.
So here's a question.
Okay.
What if it was Black Widow?
No, definitely not.
That it doesn't?
Again, I would rent it for $15, but I'm not going to pay $30 to quote unquote own ones and zeros that may go away.
Yeah, I don't have a problem owning ones and zeros, but I mean, like, if I'm paying, I want to pay for the theater experience.
Yes.
Right?
And that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't. If it was Spider-Man, I'd think about it. But Black Widow, I mean, like, I wasn't that crazy about the trailer to begin with.
Okay.
Like, even New Mutants, a movie I've been dying to see, I can't. $30, that's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
And yes, you could say, oh, you take a family of four to the theater. I'm not taking a family of four to the theater. Like, my kid doesn't want to see the Mulan live action, you know?
No,
he's 4. I don't even think he's even watched the original Mulan. He doesn't express no interest in that. So it's like, it's not, I'm not saying it for everybody, but I'm just saying for the Oliva family, we're not going to be doing that.
But, that's the problem, right? It's the experience you're paying the extra money for, you know, going to the theater, seeing it on a giant screen, having, you know, going with people to enjoy it together and that whole thing. And, you know, they have to take that into account for the price. Like, they can't price it like for a theater release when you're just going to be watching at home. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. If you're pricing it that high, again, like I said, a lot of people are going to say, well, let's get our money's worth out of it and, like, have friends over to their house to have a big, you know, viewing on their 50, 60, 70 inch TV. And right. And we shouldn't be doing that. So Disney's kind of promoting bad behavior, and they're pricing themselves out of a lot of, like, even if they drop the price $10, say own it for $20, that might make a huge difference.
So that being said, I think it's a good experiment from Disney. This Mulan is not one of their, like, top properties. Like, it isn't Black Widow. It isn't something that's going to generate a ton of Oscar buzz, right? This is just one of those movies that they make. Like, these remakes, they make good money, right? They do good, but it's not, like, earth-shattering. So this is a time for them to go, let's see what we can get away with.
Yeah.
Well, I don't fault them for that. That's their property, their company. But as consumers, you need to make the decision of what is best for you, and you need to tell giant corporations when enough is enough, because they'll keep pushing as long as they can.
I predict that this will make more money than Trolls World Tour did.
That's a bold prediction, man. Trolls World Tour cleaned up. Probably right, though.
So, yeah, no, like, Mulan was one of my daughter's favorite movies when she was a kid, so, you know, I know she'll be getting it, so we'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of these live action remakes are literally just, you know, we have the story already written, just, you know, get some CGI and then collect our bags of cash. That's literally it.
All right. So moving on real quick. We had talked about we talked about this as a rumor a while ago that they were going to be making a Tron 3 and Jared Leto would be starring in it. It appears they're moving forward with this movie, and Garth Davis, director of the movie Lion, never heard of it, will be helming this Tron movie starring Jared Leto. Yay? Nay? John, you sighed audibly, so I assume you have something to say.
Hey, I watched the original Tron in the theaters. I've interviewed Bruce Boxleitner on our show. Go to our site and find it. But yeah, the second Tron did not make me like happy. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like they could have done so much more with it. And I think this side quest thing with the new life forms or whatever, kind of drained from the storyline that they could have had. So I don't know. And this third movie can't possibly be part of like some overarching idea that they had when they wrote the second one. So I'm interested, but not, like I'm not going to pay $30 for it. I'll wait until it's like, rent it for $5 or just part of my subscription.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, there's so much more they could do it. They need a good writer or a couple of writers who are also well versed in technology that could actually do something with it. Like the old, reboot animated, show, which was actually the very first CGI animated, TV show in the world, by a group called Mainframe. They did stuff in that show that blew away anything in the second Tron movie. Like, some of the concepts that they had and all that. So, really, really interesting, really tied to technology and really original.
And,
so
but it's starring Jared Leto doesn't change your mind at all?
No. No, because it's not about the actor. The Tron movies are about the setting and the technology and the visuals, right? So the storyline has to be good. Don't get me wrong. But this is one of the few times where I'm more interested in the art direction and the the tracking and all the CGI that they put into it and all that. So it's I don't know. The storyline isn't as important as normal for me, but they still have to have a better storyline than Tron 2. And Jared Leto, I'm not a fan. But I don't dislike him. I'm kind of soured after the whole Joker thing.
Come on, JD, you can save this. Come on, he was visually stunning as the Joker, right?
I have no emotional connection to this property, nor do I have an opinion on this third film, which I find to be unnecessary, but it's not for me, so.
See, that's kind of the problem though, because the first movie was at a time when all this technology stuff was new, and it was very self-aware of that, and it was very imaginative and used, it was a really interesting look into, quote unquote, behind the scenes of technology, what was going on with programs and stuff. And a lot of it tracked with how technology actually worked back then. And if they had done the same kind of imaginative storyline with Tron 2, you might have been more interested, but you're younger than me, a lot younger. Where'd all my time go? So basically you've grown up in technology and it doesn't hold the same, the same wonder as it did for my generation, right? Yeah, sure. So it would have to be really good to catch your attention, right? And if it's like another emoji movie, then screw it.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Oh, that's what we need. Emojis too.
No,
Electric
God,
Boogaloo.
no.
So,
all the aliens universe would find us and destroy us.
All right. So I think we can skip the next article, and we can talk about this other one next week, because I want to get to our topic discussion, and we're running a little long. So we made John do homework, and he's upset about it. So we can't.
Poor baby.
What did you say?
I said poor baby.
So as we stated last week, we are a comic book podcast. So we want to talk about comic books. Now this isn't a review of a 25-year-old comic? 35. Oh my
35.
God, I am old. 35-year-old comic. But it's just more of a discussion. I had forgot about all the social commentary in it from when I originally read it, so it's kind of interesting how some of it it doesn't matter what decade we're in, some of it still stays the same. I think it made quite a few good points in the story. So 1985, Spectacular Spider-Man number 107 to 110. It is.
I may have done the wrong assignment, because I not only read 107 to 110, but also issues 134 to 136.
Why did you do that?
Because they're part of the storyline, actually.
Well, we were just talking about the original storyline, which is just the 4 issues, so I'm not sure why you did extra work.
It was actually, when you buy it on Comixology, that's actually like part of the story. Like when you buy Spider-Man: The Death of Jean Dewolff, those are the extra issues that are included with it. And apparently that includes Electro and basically the death of Sin Eater. So
I was wondering how they were trying to justify spending $12 on a 4-issue comic.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's there's 4 extra issues. So, or three extra issues.
So I actually have it in a hard cover collection of it's the Masters collection or what's it called? Oh, Master Edition Spider-Man stories. So, and it's like 5 of the best Spider-Man stories ever written. Of course, we're talking about the Death of Jean Dewolff, written by Peter David, art by Rich Buckler, and
we've met Peter
he's
David
been on
too.
the show. Yeah. So the interesting thing is, this is so Peter David actually started out with Marvel in sales and got moved over to editorial. And this is the second story he wrote for Marvel. He did a one-shot. It was a few issues before this. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. And
Here Cometh the Commuter.
Oh, okay.
It's the one where Spider-Man takes the train out to the suburbs and can't swim.
Yes. A joke they've done in the cartoons and in Homecoming. So
yeah, that's Peter David's joke.
So there you go. So this story, I'm trying to think so given just the 4 issues, not the death of Sin Eater, John, just real quick, what was your impression? Did you read this before this? Was this your first time reading it?
No.
Okay, what was your initial impression of the story?
It was good. Now, what do you think, Jamie? No, it's a lot. Well, it's Peter David, right? It's the storyline has a lot, like you said, a lot of social commentary, and some of it which is still relevant today, which is kind of sad. Very relevant today, as a matter of fact. Just one question. I tried to look this up. He was wearing the black costume. Spider-Man was wearing a black costume, but that wasn't the symbiote.
So there was
a
weird transition period in the comics where he got rid of the symbiote, but he still wore a black costume. Now, of course, they justified it, I believe, by saying people got used to him in the black costume, blah, blah, blah. I think artists just like drawing it, and I think maybe some stories were written before they realized about the transition, so they kind of just had him in the black costume as well.
It was a Shooter thing, too. Shooter, like the black costume. That was an era in Marvel where a lot of the superheroes were getting revamped costumes.
Okay.
And the black suit was kind of leading the charge in the mid-'80s. Plus, they also had a line of Secret Wars toys that were making Marvel a lot of money.
Well, that's true.
And the more you put guys in the black hat, the more you put people in the black hat, or Peter in the black costume, the more likely you were to sell a few more toys. Worked on this kid.
Oops. So I asked because Peter Parker seemed a hell of a lot more angry than I
kind of wonder if this was written before, like still storing the symbiote phase, but then didn't get okay to be published until after the symbiote. Because yes, and we'll get into, like, there is a part in this story that it feels tacked on to me, and I want to get to that, which deals with his anger, and it's like, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me, but something comes out of it that makes sense, though.
Well, okay, so to finish up then, quickly, the discourse between the characters is, 1980-ish. Yeah. So, it feels, these days it feels kind of dated and stunted and, but the emotions portrayed and the situations between the characters and Peter Parker's struggle with hurting people and all that is really good. I mean, it makes you actually feel something for the character, because some of the situations, as in real life, don't have a real, there's no black and white answer. And it dives into that, which is bold, which is why I always liked Peter David stuff. So yeah, this was really good. This was a treat to read.
All right, how about you, JD? Did you read this before?
No, actually, I've never read this particular story before. I've known of it almost my entire fandom, but I've never read it. Like, when I was collecting amazing, not spectacular. Right? And so, I remember about 12 years ago, so my wife bought me this DVD that had every issue of Amazing Spider-Man up to up the JMS era on it. But it was amazing. So, I mean, I knew of Jean Dewolff. I remember her from her interactions with Peter in that book in the 70s. I had not read this. I knew of it. So this is my first time actually reading it. And it's pretty decent. It's not my favorite Peter David story, per se. I really liked his Hulk run a lot more. I think this book itself suffers from a lot of the shooterisms of mid-'80s Marvel. Things had to be overwritten. Things had to be basically written out 3 times for people to explain, so people would get them. It makes for reading back on things a little bit tricky. I feel the same about the Claremont stuff, but I think Claremont was a little bit better at it. And again, this is early in Peter David's career. I think the plot is pretty dang good. We talked about, you guys mentioned why it was so angry. Jim Owsley, who, as we know now is Christopher Priest, became the editor on the book, and he was looking for a way to differentiate spectacular. I went to the Wikipedia after reading it. He was looking for a way to differentiate spectacular from amazing, because they struggle with that, Marvel. Those books have a tendency to, why read Web of, or Friendly Neighborhood, or Spectacular Spider-Man? We can just read the basic, all the good stuff happens in Amazing Spider-Man. So his idea was to make the stories a little more grown up, was his words. So he wanted a serious story that featured the death of Jean Dewolff. That was the editorial edict. So this is nothing new, editorial edicts. And Peter David had to go from there. I feel like this is a story that really encapsulates the mood of the 1980s. There's some Son of Sam, which I know is the 70s, but there's definitely, you can tell Peter David grew up in New York in the 70s, because the Sin Eater, the Email Greg stuff is very Son of Sam. And then at the end, it's very Bernie Getz.
Oh my God.
So, it felt very 1980s to me. It's also 1985. So you're talking about, this is literally the beginning of the comics aren't for kids anymore phase in pop culture. So it's this book is actually kind of coming out at the same time as Watchmen, and as Mark Gruenwald's Squadron Supreme, and as Dark Knight Returns. It's in that era. So Spider-Man is angry. It's a darker story.
Yeah.
It's really the mood of mainstream comics of the time, is they were trying to elevate the medium. And I think for me, the big reason why I didn't love it was because I think a year later, in 87, it's done, I think it was 87, 86 or 87. It's about a year later. I think DeMatteis does a better job with this type of story with Kraven's Last Hunt.
Right.
And I don't think Dark Spider-Man is a well you can go to too often. So I guess for me it falls a little bit short because it's not as good as Last Hunt. It's good, but it's not as good. But I think this story actually winds up playing a more important role in continuity.
Are you saying you can't go to the Dark Spider-Man well too often because Spider-Man's supposed to be one of the more upbeat, colorful characters? Or?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, same with Superman. Like, you can tell dark stories involving the character. You can. I have no problem with that. You can't do it all the time. And I feel like
you can't go Zack Snyder on it, basically.
You can't. No, but I mean, like, I feel like, again, there's nothing wrong with this story. I liked it. It's a good story. I just don't think it's as good as the one that sets the tone for what a Dark Spider-Man story should be. That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, and I definitely was in the same boat as you, JD. Like, I was an Amazing Spider-Man kid growing up. I had a few issues of Spectacular here and there just because of tie-ins, you know?
Right.
And I probably originally read this story again, just like Watchmen when I was a little older, like in my mid to late 20s is when I first read it. And I think the first thing that struck me about it, rereading it again especially, is how much grittier it is than your average Spider-Man story. And it is definitely a darker tone. And actually, it was funny because there's tidbits in my hardback collected edition, and it's like, even though Jean Dewolff had not been in any Spider-Man titles for over a year, when they decided to kill her off in this, Peter David got a ton of angry letters, which is funny because it was a editorial edict and not his decision.
Just the same thing as Gwen Stacy a decade before. Jerry Conway didn't want to, actually I take that back. Jerry Conway did want to do it. I withdraw the comparison.
But still, he was told to do it,
it was one of those things they wanted to kill either her or Mary Jane, and Stan Lee always said for decades, like, he was going off to, like, Comic-Con or a conference or something, and he's like, look, I trust you guys, you just decide while I'm gone. And then he came back and found out they killed off Gwen Stacy, and he was like, wait a minute, I thought you were going to kill off the party girl. So...
No.
So they made the right decision, is what
you don't kill off the redhead. That's the problem. Because you can't kill redheads. They have no soul.
This is a conversation for a different day. So, I want to have.
So getting to the grittiness and something that, like, to me set this apart right away, like, one of the things that makes this story good, not great, but good, is the way he gives you exposition. He changes it. It's not always the same thing. Like in The Dark Knight Returns, it's always through the TV news, right? That's how you get all your exposition. Mm-hmm. This, we're getting exposition about Jean Dewolff and her growing up in the beginning of the story, which is all her life flashing before her eyes as she's dying in her apartment. So right away you're like, oh, this is different. This isn't for kids.
It was kind of horrifying, actually, when you realize why. I mean, like...
Right. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And then later on we did use the news, and I can't think of there's a third way I was thinking earlier that I really liked. But, so not to go into too much, okay. Alright, so we talked about the grittiness, we talked about our impression. What's something that you didn't like about this story? Either one.
Right. Yeah, JD. Unless you want me to go.
I do feel like this was one of those things that felt like an editorial edict. Because like you said, Jean Dewolff, and again, this isn't reading in retrospect, is when characters are often killed in comics, they show up to die. And I feel like in this case, Jean Dewolff shows up to die. Because it's not like she had been playing a large role. Even reading this in, ex post facto, you can tell she's in the story to die.
Well, because she isn't even in the story. She's
right. It's called the Death of Jean Dewolff, but the Death of Jean Dewolff is really like what kicks the story off. It's really more the saga of the Sin Eater, and so I guess that's where I feel this is like it doesn't have the emotional, like the death of a character should have a big emotional punch. And even though I did not grow up in the era of reading Jean Dewolff comics, because this was man, I couldn't even read when this book was printed. So for me, I don't feel like they're telling me the connection, but I didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel like this is like Spider-Man takes all these deaths super hard. It's part of the character, and it happens to him repeatedly. But there's a reason why like the quintessential Spider-Man deaths are Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy. And Jean Dewolff's always down the list of that. So, I mean, it just felt like a death for the sake of a death. And the story that comes off it is good, but it feels like what it is. It feels like an editorial edict book.
Well, even Sin Eater basically, when they was asked why he killed her, he said just because.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that's actually a real, like, again, I talk about Son of Sam and Zodiac and those kind of things. Though that's where the influence. And I like the Sin as a character. Terrible name for a character. Yeah. Terrible name. But the influences of the character, even in his design, are more like Zodiac, Son of Sam, the Texarkana Killer, that kind of thing. So I dig the concept of this, but it just doesn't fit to me. Like,
well, couldn't that have been when he wrote that line, when he answered the question of why he killed her, and he said, just because, could that have been like Peter David actually exposing a little bit of the reasoning behind killing the character? It was just because to create this story?
Possibly. I don't think Peter David, I almost called him Peter Gabriel. I don't think Peter David was, established enough in his comic career to make those kind of grandiose stands. So it could have been a subliminal thing. It could, it feels to me more like the justification for those type of serial killers. Serial killers tend to not, murders tend to be crimes of passion. Like usually if you kill someone, if you get murdered, the person that killed you.
Yeah.
These serial killers, it tends to be a little bit more random. So that, like I said, it fits to me. My thing is, I feel like this would have been a better Batman story than I feel as a Spider-Man story.
I concur. I kind of felt like in some of the beats, it's like, is this a Batman story that was just made to work for Spider-Man?
Or Daredevil. Like, it's funny that Daredevil has such a big presence in this book, because it almost feels more like a Daredevil story than a Spider-Man story. Like, and this one just feels off-brand to me.
Yeah. How about you, John? Anything that sticks out that you really didn't like?
Not as far as the storyline is concerned. I have less of I'm less invested in it than you or JD, because I wasn't a Marvel Comics guy so I don't have like all of the background issues, memorized and all that. But, like I said, the 80s, stilted over-explaining and all of that, where they're basically like actors on a stage in a park yelling at the top of their lungs their lines so the back rows can hear them. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like I could get into the storyline, which was pretty good, and I got all of the commentary and the emotions that they were trying to portray, but the conveyance was a bit too in my face.
That's why DC was better in the 80s, because they were much better at being subtle. Like I said, this is the same time as Watchmen, and like what Denny O'Neil is doing on Batman and those type of things. Like those books are written a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah, you could see they would show like a panel with just a look on one of their faces, and that would be worth like 3 panels here where they're saying, I feel this anger and I have to do this.
But you can't blame the writership. Like that's like when I call it shooterisms. That's literally what Jim Shooter ruled with an iron fist over at Marvel. Sold a lot of books, but at the same time, like I don't think in 30 plus years after the fact they read quite as well as older DC stuff does. Like you can pick up Swamp Thing, like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing from the 80s, and it reads great. Mm-hmm. This is it's harder to read, and that was because of the editorial edicts at the time. And to be frank, it sold better. Like, I get why they were doing it, because they were caring about selling today's books. They weren't giving a crap about what a bunch of dudes were going to think about it 35 years later.
Yeah, they were selling pulp stories and not like art, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's I think one of the things that bothered me about this book is it felt like it could have been cut down to 2 or 3 issues. Like, it didn't need to be 4. It's very padded. And it's funny because there is no, like, I want to.
There's no writing for the trade in this era.
Yeah. And you're not counting the other 3 issues, Dave, where it shows like basically the denouement of the city story.
I'm also kind of used to the backup stories where there's like 2 storylines going on in a book, and that could pad an issue out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is none of that. This is
there's no subplot.
This is a totally contained story about a serial killer and what it does to the city of New York and what happens.
Which is that's very odd for comics in this era to do that.
And then it was like, the real issue I have with it is the amount of anger Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has over this whole thing. Like,
that's why I asked you about the symbiote, because it didn't seem like his normal characterization.
To the point where he's like, when we get to the climax and he's fighting the Sin Eater and he's beating the pulp out of him, and Daredevil comes in to stop him from killing the Sin Eater. It's like, it's very rare that he goes that far, and to go that far for a character who was not
an ally, not a friend. Yeah. Like, she didn't know the secret identity.
Exactly. She was a supporting character.
Now, if I can interject here, so I think that what Peter David was trying to convey was the reason why he was so angry was because Spider-Man had a working relationship with Jean, and then he found the clippings that said that she might have had feelings for him. And I believe I read that at one point she had told Peter that she loved him, but it was when the symbiote was, it was when his suit was actually the symbiote, and the symbiote was basically using him like a puppet. So he was unconscious at the time. So he doesn't know that she actually felt that way about him. But it didn't track that the clippings, and finding that out would instantly translate to, I'm really angry about this now, right?
Yeah, it doesn't work, man.
I kind of felt like, and this is what I was talking about, the thing that it felt tacked on to me. It felt like they did it so they could have Spider-Man fight Daredevil. Because
absolutely.
That's something that would sell books. Oh, look, they're going to fight each other. Let's go buy this issue of Spectacular Spider-Man. And it was like,
that's a very Marvel stuff.
I know, and it's like, this story to me would work better if you didn't put that in.
And again, I think Peter David, just knew at the time. I think if this is 5 years later in his career, he writes a better story. Again, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Like, it's good, but there's it feels like everyone's really trying to go for something.
Do you think that he was told to add a fight in between Spider-Man and Daredevil?
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Okay. So So if by 5 years later, not experienced that he would have written a better story, he would have had more control.
Oh no, I think he would have done it better. I think he would have made it work a little bit better. I think he would have set up, because I want to say these are his first 4 issues on the title.
Mm-hmm.
So after trashing Peter David, what's something that you liked about the story?
Oh, Peter David's a great writer. He has a great handle on Spider-Man's voice. He understands the world. He's not bad. He's not a bad writer. Peter David gave me an awesome review for a script once, so he is one of my favorite writers. There's nothing wrong with anything he did. I really feel like this is Jim Owsley trying to make Jim Shooter happy.
Yeah.
And trying to do something. That's where I think the story, I think it's editorial that hurts this thing more than anything.
Okay. But is there anything that stands out as a really cool moment in the story, or?
John?
Well, I will gladly take this as you can think. One of the things that stood out to me was technically the background. It was the social commentary on what people were thinking about the police and when they found out the Sin Eater was actually one of the cops, and then what the police were thinking about the population. And it's like, it is so freaky to read that in a comic in 1985, and there are still protests going on about Trayvon Martin and all these black people that have been killed by the cops. So it's kind of, that kind of situation was even mentioned, that there was the black priest in this. So it's really, his voice, the writer's voice in this, Peter David's voice was, I mean, you're like you said, world building is interesting. And it's not just like the two characters going, or Spider-Man and Daredevil and whatever, just going through this paint by numbers thing, because the world around them is also interacting, and there's things happening that affected the story later, which I thought was, cool, because they tried to mob the police, the police office, and get Sin Eater, and the mob tried to take him out. So yeah, it's a living world, and I thought that was interesting. And then it kind of acted like we still are today, which was also sad, which makes him a good writer, because that's spot on there, and it makes you think, especially about forgiveness, and are you a good guy or a bad guy if you leave the bad guy to die and all that, and kind of called into question some of DC's things where they always let the bad guys live to come back and hurt people later. Not that Marvel doesn't do that, but still, it was like they were actually calling it into question here. Should I just, turn around and walk away? He killed like 5 people. I'll just let the mob have him. That's a really deep subject, and I'm sure that if you queried readers of this, half of them would say, yeah, I walk away, and the others would say, no, I'd have to pick him up and let justice deal with him, right? And it would even change depending on the day you asked them. So I like that about this story.
Yeah, me too. I agree with everything you said there. Again, I just don't know if Spider-Man's the right character to do it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Again, that was, and again, I'm not a Marvel guy, but every characterization of Spider-Man I've ever read, he's more upbeat. He definitely has this moral compass, and so yeah, it was kind of discordant.
Yeah, it just feels like a Batman story to me, or a Daredevil story. That's my biggest qualm with it. One of my things that my frame of reference for this story gave me issues with this because of what the Sin Eater, of how the Sin Eater influenced Marvel continuity. With, like, it's the birth of Venom. Like, Eddie Brock is the one who writes the article. And where Emil, I forget his name, the fake email, whatever, the Emil Greg reveals himself to be the Sin Eater. It was retroactive continuity, but Eddie Brock wrote that story. And Eddie Brock lost his career because of it. And that became the motivation for him to become Venom. So part of me is reading this knowing what's going to happen, but that wasn't the plan at the time. So
interesting. I didn't catch that.
And I know it doesn't fit, but in my head, I'm trying to fit the pieces together to do headcanon. And it was just like, again, I think that takes away a little bit from my, not enjoyment of it, but like, I was thinking about stuff while I was reading it. Connecting dots that weren't there, as it were.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's interesting, too, because one of the things I was thinking about reading this is building off of what John said about the social commentary, right? And what makes you a good guy, and a hero. And it's like, you sit there and go, well, if they had ended the story at the apartment, at J. Jonah James' house when they're fighting, when Peter's fighting the Sin Eater. If Matt came in at that point and said called him Peter to make him stop, and then you have that and then you can cut out the rest of the whole issue and end with them having their conversation on the rooftop, about.
And again, that's so Batman. It's such a Batman.
But let them have the conversation. Just have a quick conversation about justice versus vigilantism, blah blah blah, and left it there. But you get this whole fourth issue that broadens the entire story, and I kind of wonder.
But that's good because life really is messy like that, right?
Well, no. I'm saying like you have the conversation between Spider-Man and Daredevil about this without having to show the entire. What I'm getting at is the question is if this is considered one of the best Spider-Man stories, right? Has been for a long time, but if you remove that social commentary, is it just a throwaway story?
Pretty much, though. I would think that the whole thing is made a good story by the fact that they're calling into question what's a hero, what should you do in this situation? This guy murdered Bull, but his mind was affected, but he might not be crazy, and he's just and it turns out he was crazy, and who's the good guy, and it's just. I think that's that's the meat of the story. You can't take that away without making it just, like you said, a throwaway.
Yeah. I think the real message is you can't trust S.H.I.E.L.D., but that's a whole other story.
Well, I thought that was the basis of every story with them in it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because I always thought that was such a weird, and I understand why they did it, but at the same time, it still felt like a weird thing to add. Like, earlier in the story, when they mentioned that he was a former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like, well, that's going to come back to play later in the story, right? Or he's going to be a main recurring character for the future. But I kind of had a feeling like, no, this is going to be a beat repeated in the story for some reason later on, And
it's just kind of there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there could have been 1,000 reasons why this guy was a serial killer, but, no, S.H.I.E.L.D. did experiments on him and gave him PCP. Which is such an 80s
and
thing.
It might, yeah. But that again, like that might be another editorial decision.
No, I think it probably was. That's all. Well, we got to make the Marvel Universe connect. It just. Yeah.
Because it would have made the storyline more impactful if the whole thing, like even him, was basically sometimes people are bad, right? Like, or crazy, and that would have extended the whole social commentary out even more. But they had to make it S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right, and again,
I feel like.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and again, it goes back to the Batman versus Spider-Man idea with the story is, the whole thing is when they're attacking and the precinct at the end and they're beating up Sin Eater and Daredevil goes down to stop them and Spider-Man that is not a Spider-Man move. Like, he always tries to save the villain. Like they've written that story 1,000 times. So that is one of the things that doesn't work with Spider-Man's voice, I think, in this story.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just, like I said, it feels like Batman. I'm just going to keep saying it,
No, fair enough.
And I also feel like Marvel had a character similar to this with the Scourge of the Underworld that is similar to the Sin Eater, but I think a little bit, I don't want to say better, but just, it was right up at the same time, too, that they're doing, that Mark Gruenwald's doing the Scourge of the Underworld thing as I look it up. And it just, I don't know, man. It felt like that character worked better than the Sin Eater. Definitely had a better name.
Right. All right. Well, I think, and unless you guys have something else you want to add, I think we've talked this one to death. So, I guess I recommend, like, if you like Spider-Man, you like Peter David, you want to read a story that did become influential in continuity down the road, and you've never read it, go check it out. There's plenty that you can get on Comixology. there's plenty of hardback graphic novel collections of this story that you can grab. I recommend it. What do you guys recommend it, John?
Yeah, I would. Keep in mind the time in which it was written, but otherwise, yeah, I would recommend it. I enjoyed it, and I'm a DC guy, so yeah.
All right, JD.
It's good. It's not Craven's Last Hunt, but it's good.
I think we'll have another comic next week. I think at this point we'll have to jump to DC and maybe do a Batman story. We'll talk about it off air. But keep in tune for that. And before we wrap it up for the week, any recommendations, John?
One. There's a new anime out there called Decadence, and if you watch the first episode, you pretty much think you know where the whole thing's going to go, and then the second episode basically walks up to you, punches you in the face, and then kicks you in the groin. It's a really, really, really good anime, and there's only 5 episodes so far. They're released weekly, and it's on Hulu, and it's well worth the watch.
All right. I don't currently have that service, but I'll look for it.
Yeah, but it's called Decadence, and it's on. Let me see here. Yeah, it's on Hulu.
Okay.
Yep.
JD.
So I found this app on Roku called Rasslin. It's Rassin. No, it's what's great. It's a wrestling app, but I mean, what it does is it randomly generates a video that I'm pretty sure lives on YouTube. So you just turn the app on and it will randomly generate something for you to watch. And I have seen things from the 50s. I have seen things from the 80s. I've seen Japanese stuff, some current modern independent stuff, and you have no control over it. I don't even know how some of this stuff is legal, to be honest with you. So I'm enjoying this app before it gets taken down.
Is this like chat roulette?
I don't know what that is, so I'll say maybe.
There's a reason why you don't know where it is.
Yeah, it's a fun little app, man. If you are a fan of old school pro wrestling and don't mind letting something have a whirl, download the Wrestling on Roku app and just hit play and see what comes up. I've seen some fun stuff.
Cool. We'll be wrestling with that. I just love the name.
Me too. I do also love it.
All right. Well, I, as always, will recommend that you go to superheroespeak.com and check out the podcast every week, plus comic book reviews by our good friend D Square. And if you haven't had enough of me for this week, make sure you go over and check out So Wizard this week. As I mentioned earlier, I was a guest. We talked about our favorite comedies, some of the news that you've already heard on this show, but you can hear Joey and Mark Ellis's and Aubrey's take on the news as well. And yeah, that's all I got. I haven't been doing anything else. So yeah. On that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening. Don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.